Hi everybody, welcome back to the Crime Lab. So today we are going to be talking about Björn Pétersson, who was nicknamed Axler Björn. He was alive between 1555 and 1596, so we're going way back. And fun thing about Björn, he is the only known serial killer in the history of Iceland. This is going to be a slightly shorter video just because it is so far back. But I found as much information about this guy as I could. So Bjorn was born the youngest of three to a farming family outside of Oxel, which is west of Budir in Snæfellsnes, Iceland. I had to look up and spell that phonetically in my notes so that I could pronounce that correctly. If I did a terrible job, I apologize to anybody that speaks Icelandic. Feel free to tell me how terribly I pronounce that in my comments. I will totally understand. So when he was 15, he was working actually on one of his neighbor's farms to earn a little bit of extra money, or in this case, exchange for room and board. And his neighbor's actually quite wealthy. His neighbor's name was Ormur, and who died years later. He was old age sort of thing. And at that point, he left his estate to his son. Now, his son and Bjorn were actually friends. So Ormur's son actually gifted him a farm called Oxel in the Breidavik region, where Bjorn took residence with his then wife Portis. And there have been many legends over the last couple of centuries that were written about Bjorn Pétersson, but were all written about 250 to 300 years after Bjorn's execution. And of course, as many of us know, stories are interwoven with legends and myths, so how accurate are they? Those really differ. A lot of the differences are, his MO, number of victims, and what actually led to his arrest. So there's some contradictory information out there. But the most common claims was he either killed 9 people or he killed 18. Those are the two most common numbers that were found. And then some versions will say that he killed them with an axe. Other versions say that he drowned them. And then the one kind of common thing other than number of victims was that local suspicion grew about Bjorn due to, of course, people disappearing kind of near his farm, the number of horses that he was acquiring and the number of animals, and the amount of possessions that he had, considering that he was a farmer. They were like, how did you get all this stuff? We've never seen you purchase it. It's a small community. We would know if you purchased this. But, there was a limit on what the authorities at the time could do because he was also under the protection of his friend who had gifted him the farm. So they could only do so much. But he was ultimately arrested. And confessed to 9 killings. Like I said, he was either the 9 or the 18. He confessed to that many killings. But authorities, after he was arrested, they found more bodies than what he admitted to. So then he was interrogated about the bodies. He said that they were bodies that were already on the property when he acquired it. So when his first boss's son gave him the property, he claims that the bodies were already there. At various points on the property, he just moved them to a different location. But the thing that kind of concerned the authorities was he never notified police or notified the cemetery or, kind of like the undertaker, the people in charge of that, before he moved them or after he found the original bodies. So that kind of made authorities be like, we don't believe you on this. Like, why would you not contact somebody? And so then he was sentenced to die by hanging after being what they called breaking on the wheel, which is a torture method, which I'm not 100% sure. I tried to find some more information, but I couldn't find much what breaking on the wheel was. But it's a torture method from what I'm able to find, and then he was hung. So then after his death, after he was confirmed dead, his body was dismembered and each piece was put onto a stake. So think ancient England where the head's on the pike, similar sort of idea, just all of the pieces of his body. And then his wife, who was pregnant at the time, was actually also sentenced to death, but because she was pregnant, she got kind of a stay of execution temporarily. So Bjorn's wife was actually accused of assisting her husband and committing some of the murders herself. So if you know anything about the Ken and Barbie murders from like the Scarborough area of Canada, which I will be doing a video in the future about them, they were kind of given similar accusations where the husband in that situation, everybody was like, yeah, he did it. But when they found evidence, in that case, there was video evidence, she was actually more of a participant than she claimed and actually took a part in some of the killings. So this would be a very similar situation with Bjorn and his wife. And she was also sentenced to death, but that was never carried out. So then the son she was carrying at the time of Bjorn's death, she named, gonna butcher this, Svein, Sveinn. That was a guess. I am, again, terrible pronunciation. So this was the son she was carrying during Bjorn's execution. Happened to grow up and be a vagrant and criminal and was hanged in 1648. And then Svein's son, Gisli, Gisli, again, I am terrible at pronouncing names that are not familiar to me, was also a criminal and executed about 9 years after his father, Svein, in 1657 for robbery, which resulted in the death of a man and his servant. So just kind of a family of criminals, unfortunately. Like I said, this one was a little shorter. A lot of contradictory information from this one because it did happen over 500 years ago, or almost 500, about 470 at this point. So there was some contradictory information, a little bit more difficult to find fully accurate information, but I still found it very interesting. I really enjoy historical stuff and historical crime. And this one, like I said, was kind of unique because it is the only known serial killer, only documented serial killer in Iceland's entire history. Iceland is a very, I don't want to say criminal-free state, but criminal-free country, but it is not known for having a lot of crime, which is awesome. But yeah, so I just thought that one was kind of cool. But if anybody has any recommendations for videos in the future, any questions about this particular topic or anything, feel free to leave those in the comments and I will do my best to reply back to you. And if you suggest a topic or a case or somebody in particular, that may just end up being a video in the future. Have a great day, y'all.